So I didn't really clean up. I've been busy working on this large scale painting. It's 48 inches by 60 inches. And it's mostly done. But here in this video, I'm going to be working on some large works on paper and talking about loosening up and letting go and what that can really mean. Oftentimes it's not always fun and it's not always happy. What I noticed about this raw, emotional, expressive, intuitive work here, when you're diving into that moment, sometimes you're met with a resistance, grief, sadness, fear. But it's almost like when you can step into it. Joseph Campbell, the great mythologist, said the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek, and I have a video about that up here. It's about acceptance and allowing, and sometimes it's not always that happy moment that brings us to the greatest epiphany or revelation or revolution. I know that for sure. It has happened in my life countless times, and it's definitely happened in this artworks where I was wrestling all the sides, letting them fly, and at one of the layers I had this intense cry, and I it was private moment, right? So, but that's just in one of the layers. But it made me realize something, that everyone tries to sell you this image and this ideal, and it's great, and I love happiness myself. I'm not saying that it's not a good thing, but what I'm trying to say is it's not reality most of the time. We have grief and we have loss, and we have dark nights of the soul, and sadness and confusion and despair. So that can all be here, and that's when we think it's only supposed to be happy, or we can also get stuck, because we're trying to make our work, and we're like, wait, what's wrong with me? Because I don't feel that way. But the thing is, when we can learn to open up to all sides internally, face ourselves, emotionality comes through in the expression. And it happens in an artwork, but you don't necessarily have to be a painter or to experience this. It can be in any creative work, and that's what's great about just opening up to the sides now. And you don't have to hide in there anymore, so then you're not suppressing, you're expressing, and that really can change the way you show up to everything. I know this 1000%. That's one thing I can say I do know. But there's also a lot that I don't know still, so I'm here learning just as much as you. Because one time you can have a great epiphany, and the next day you could be crying on the floor and wondering what the heck happened. So that's I'm not really a realist either, but that is how I'm more of when I speak to the truths of all the sides and realize through all my lived experiences and the art journey too, my creative process, art process, that that's what I've seen. So it's just a point of view that I want to bring forward even more this year and going forward. The energetic, the emotional, the spiritual, the intuitive, the expressive, the creative, all that raw feeling. I'm here for it. And things are expanding, and so I'm gonna work on these works on paper in this video. I can never keep it short. I try to keep the intro short, but I just have so much to say. And I'll talk more about loosening up and letting go from an emotional standpoint, because it's really about the internal work more sometimes than even making the artworks. In the sense, in order to get to the freedom, you have to kind of move through the stuff. So what's weird to me is sometimes it's not even about the color and the composition, design, when you're trying to like make an artwork, it's really about the emotionality and the energy. Sometimes it can be about the fear, but like what we're holding and hiding and not opening up to. That is where the creative block can come from. It can also be the thing that keeps us stuck, our desire, when we don't just listen to our desire. Not to say that the other things aren't important or necessary, but it's not the only way to look at it. And when we can look at the energetic and the emotional, especially in a raw, intuitive, abstract expressionist work, where you're pulling that emotionality out. So it's specific. We really want to be diving into what's in the way, and a lot of times that can be the mindset, and also just realizing that some days are just shitty, right? So it could be you can going through grief and feeling sadness, but we can use like the color as a way to create this alchemical transformation, right? And that becomes healing in the process. And we can put all the different emotionality into the work by using mixed media mark making, a big expressive mark, a drawn mark. We can really release a ton of energy, like just in a tiny moment. And those are the little things that excite me, and what I look forward to in artworks a lot of the time is just how I can fly into it and dive into maybe even the pain a little bit and bring that out and let it become flooded with a color and kind of see myself in the process of it all. So I'm not turning anything away, and that's really important, because when we're scared to express something, whether it's in an artwork or our lives, what happened to us, it can, when you hold into all that, it can really eat you alive. So that's the great power of art making and writing and being able to speak into what happened. And you don't always have to tell the whole story in order to let it out, which that's the exciting thing about abstraction. So you don't always have to. I just love words, and I'm kind of a rebellious spirit anyway, so if you say you can't do it, I'm gonna try to figure out how to do it. I don't know, that's just who I am. So so you gotta find out who you are, and you gotta open up to more and keep doing that hard internal work. And that's how you get to the heart of the matter. So I hope you enjoyed this video about loosening up and letting go and emotionally diving into the internal. Sometimes it can be scary to start, but sometimes the only way to know how to break through is to start. It's like that weird place to be, right? You're stuck too much in your head, and you have to move into the body and maybe move into the next iteration of what it is for you. Which that's always changing and rearranging, just like we are. So happy Easter, and there's all this time of renewal, right? Rebirth, coming back around to the self, and learning to let go more and more and move into that flow, whether that's in art and creativity or just in your life, really. It's really important to just tend to all the sides and know that some days are easier than others, and sometimes the artwork is a challenge. When you're growing through something, it's not easy. It's just not. So let's break the illusion so you can feel more free and realize that it isn't just about having this one track. There's a multiplicity and a multidimensionality here, and there's many channels and stations we can tune into, so it's just a choice. What do you want to tune into, and where do you want to go? And we start moving into that flow and moving towards a desire, and that's when the fire comes. And we want to stay, you know, with that spark, and know that if it's dwindling, that it can always rise again, or sometimes it's too much. But you can always put it into your creative work. You can always alchemize the pain and return again.